Episode 35 of Mountain Sports Complex. Talk sports to me. I'm your host, the Sports Guru. This week, we have another incredible series titled This Corner. Tonight, we will be joined by Eastern High School boys head coach Rob Buechler and Eastern High School girls head coach Kevin Pickrell. Two men who are very well versed in the game of basketball and two men who have been part of Eastern basketball for a long, long time. In this series, last night, Coach's Corner, we got a chance to speak with newly acquired Withrow High School head boys basketball coach, Coach Bardo Allen. It was over an hour-long conversation, and it was a very good conversation that involved a lot of basketball, a lot of passion, and a lot of truth. And I appreciate Coach Allen being on the show last night, and it was really a great moment for two coaches who kind of have gotten it out of the mud, so to speak, to be able to talk and discuss how it was that we came about our head coaching jobs. We've both done it the unconventional way. Thank you for tuning in and giving us a listen. Please follow us at Twitter at Talk Sports to Me 1, Instagram at Talk Sports to Me TM, and Facebook at Talk Sports to Me. Tonight, again, we will be joined by Coach Rob Buechler and Coach Kevin Pickrell. They are the two coaches at Eastern High School in terms of the boys and the girls basketball programs, and both are very, very versed in the game of basketball, but more so than basketball, they are great individuals and great men. So without further ado, I want to start the show. This man has been coaching high school basketball at the varsity level for well over 20 years, probably closer to 30. We'll get that information from him in just a few minutes if he'll share with us. He has won sectional championships. He has won district championships. He has won a regional championship, and he has had a state tournament appearance. He has coached many young men that have went on to play college basketball. He has coached a lot of 1,000-point scorers. He was also quite the player in his day, and he is a man that is full of passion, full of grit, full of toughness, and full of determination and desire. That, too, rubs off on the players that play for him. He is a man that speaks his mind and says what he feels, but he has good intentions and never is malicious in intent. And one of the things that a lot of his players have told me that we have discussed in the past, don't listen to how he says it, listen to what he says, because it will make you a better person. He coached his two sons, both who are doing very good in life, just like the rest of his players. Something about this man is that he doesn't just coach these kids and throw them out to the wolves. He has built a regime at Eastern High School where his players would come back and play for him at any time, and those individuals are successful in life, and a lot of them attribute some of that to him. So without further ado, let's welcome Coach Rob Buechler. Coach, how are you?
Hey, good, Jason. Glad to be here. I appreciate what you're doing during these times.
Thanks for joining us, Coach. How's quarantine life treating you?
It's not bad. It's, at the beginning I was a little nervous because I'm a pretty hyper person, got to keep doing things, and it's been good I think it's been good for families. A lot of the parents that I talk to with their kids say, you know what, I'm getting to spend some time with my children. We get to know them a little better. Everything's slowed down a little bit. We hope they're still working on their basketball according to what we've sent out to them and what we've talked to. Several of them are doing some workouts on their own, so that's our goal. We just can't wait to get back in the gym.
Farm's getting a little more attention, I would probably presume.
Yeah, I'm running into a lot of things that I need to keep doing and it's hard to stay up on it all because it seems like once you get something else done, something else appears. So that's one thing nice about being at home now. I can catch up on things.
So let's get started. You're pushing 30 years at the helm as Eastern boys basketball head coach. How important do you think longevity and consistency has been to your success?
Well, this year coming up will be my 26th at the varsity level.
Okay.
I've been at Eastern, it'll be my 42nd year there. And I think longevity, Eastern has been a program all through the 60s and 70s that they've only had 5 high school basketball boys coaches in the entire, from 64 on. And I think longevity allows you a little bit of time to create your process that you want the kids to follow or your teams to follow. And I think that's helped a good bit there. They know what to expect. And it's always helped a little bit. It also helps the coaches that are helping with you. And we've had a lot of good coaches that way also through the years.
You have won several sectional championships, several league championships, a couple of gold balls, some district titles, and even a regional title. How difficult is the buy-in year in and year out in terms of getting kids to stay focused of obtaining such lofty goals? Because even on your down years, your intent is by late February to be making a tournament run. So, how hard is it, the buy-in, to get kids to buy into that year in and year out?
Well, I think there's tradition that goes along with it. I know Eastern's had very good success early years, also early 70s. And we've always been good, very competitive. And I think the tradition helps there. I think kids, we talk about setting goals. We talk about core values. I think your program's got to evolve and improve and get better every year. And that's one thing as a coach I try to do, because if I stand and rely on what happened 10 to 15, 20 years ago, it's not going to work. And a lot of people, I'm a defensive-oriented person. I've learned to become we're studying a lot of different things. We've worked on a couple things for 5 years now, and it's starting to come around a little better. We look at different types of offenses. It's working. The game's becoming more analytical. So I think we just got to, keep kids moving in the right direction. And I think that's one of the things we do with the core values. And, we have the kids want to be competitive. They're still going to be competitive with this. Right.
You've had the opportunity to coach both of your boys, in RJ and Brett. They were both very successful from an individual standpoint, but you coached them as hard or harder than all the other kids that you have coached. They both went on to have successful college careers. And I talked to Brett. I talked to Brett a little more than I get the opportunity to talk to RJ. But when I was talking to Brett, he was telling me when he went to play for Coach French, he was prepared for the tough love because he had played for his dad. He had played for you, and he was used to, being forced to excel.
Well,
how was the experience coaching both of them?
Well, I coached all three of them. Cody's my youngest. When he didn't want to go to college, he was more involved with other things, said, I want to go to college, be an engineer. And, coaching all three kids gave me some insight on how I was going to grow as a coach because, I had a lot of people say, you're pretty determined with them. You're pretty hard on them. And I told them, I said, we want to excel. And they told me that's what they wanted to, too. So they bought in. If they didn't want to do that, and the youngest one was that way a little bit, he said, I may not play. I said, really, that doesn't matter. If you don't play, that's fine. But whatever you choose to do, you're going to give it 100%.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things we tried to give them, that trait. Whatever they did, give it their best effort. And that was the thing that all our kids in our program learned. We want 100% effort. Used to ask for 110%. And some common sense and reality says you're not going to get that. If you can get 80 to 90 and you're trying to get 100, you're going to be very good. With coaching the boys, especially the two that went to college, RJ and Brett, I got to learn a lot about what they wanted to do. Also, playing AAU, seeing different coaches. That was an experience. 1 month, I think I spent 20 days in a hotel with Brett, just traveling around the AAU circuit with him in July. And, you get I didn't stay with him. He stayed with the team. But the idea is I got to see a lot of college coaches, talk to a lot of them, got to share time with a lot of high school coaches who were working with the AAU. And the boys and I have some great memories from this. I mean, we're talking about playing in the summer with our teams traveling. We talk about going different AAU circuits together, riding on that trip. You got a lot of talk time.
Right.
So there's a lot of good memories.
You are very involved in the community and in keeping kids actively involved. With that, the program for the most part are your kids, and they work and learn a lot of life lessons throughout the program. Your kids just aren't kids that you coach. They're your kids. You kind of take on, a fatherly role to them. Even though they come from good families and have dads and stuff like that, you're still like a father figure to them. How difficult is it finding that balance between the importance of basketball and life and educational focus?
One of the things that I'm pretty competitive. I was competitive in high school. I learned at a young age that I didn't start playing until 5th, 6th grade. So I kind of developed a little slower than some of my other peers that played earlier. But I was pretty determined. And I found out how important teamwork was. And when you talk about trying to be a father figure, I tell the kids, I'm not going to overstep their parents' boundaries. And that's one of the things I've grown as a coach to understand. At one time, it may have been a situation where I said, okay, we're doing this as a basketball team, no matter what your parents say. Today, we have parent meetings. They help develop. I ask them what they want us to teach their young men. And they've come up with core values, discipline, character, good sportsmanship. We want them to be competitive. We want to be successful. We want them to be good students. We want them to be held accountable. And I've really been successful getting more buy-in with that. And we live in a community that supports basketball pretty heavy and other sports now. I've coached cross country and track, and I tell you, I've had a great group of parents that followed me through 18 to 20 years of that with some great kids also. So I think our community, our staff at the schools, administration, superintendents, I think that's why we've only had 5 coaches throughout the history of Eastern in the boys program, is because of the support you get through the Board of Education and the whole community.
Right. Yeah, it is. I talked to Allison Day last week in the She Got Game Divas of the Hardwood series. And I also talked to Micah Harvey in that series. And one of the things that both of them spoke about was how much of a letdown it was when they went to college in terms of the support. Like both of them were playing, mid-major Division I college basketball. Like they're playing high-level college basketball. And they both spoke about how nothing will ever be able to replace a Monday or Thursday night with the support that they got from the community, and how Tuesday and Friday nights, the support that they get from the community. And like a lot of you guys, I always laugh because we have like a coaches, like we go up to the state tournament and there's a bunch of us different coaches from a bunch of different places. But whether Eastern is playing or not, there's a big group of Eastern people that are there watching the state tournament because they love basketball, You're
right. And it's a tradition. And you talk about the community. They get behind us. They support you. They travel pretty well. They understand good basketball. We lost a community member last week, Keith Moore. He helped in the program when his sons both played for us and his daughter played in the girls program. He was at every game, boys and girls now. We have a lot of elderly people that come in, and they like to just watch basketball. Mm-hmm. And they like good basketball, and they like the way the kids are. They appreciate what we're trying to do with the kids to get them to grow up to be good adults. John Wooden said something. He said, I won't know if I'm a success or not until about 20 years down the road when I get to see them as adults with their kids or with their jobs and what they've done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got, and we got to move on, but you guys got that group of, the group of senior citizens that you guys set a chair down against that wall that those guys sit in. We played over there last year, and all those older guys, Danny DeClaire and some of those guys sit down there against that wall. You were fortunate to coach under legendary Brown County coach Jerry Lewis for several years. How important was that experience in terms of preparing you to be a head coach as his successor?
Well, Jerry and I go back before that. We were friends before that when we farmed on Jerry. And then when I got out of high school, he asked me, he said, why don't you help me coach? And I said, well, what level? He said, girls. I need a girls junior high coach. And at first I said, I don't know if I can coach girls. My sister didn't like taking any instruction from me for 2 years when I was trying to help her when she's a couple years younger. And he said, well, my daughter's playing, and I like to have somebody down there that's going to teach you the fundamentals. So I jumped in, and, 2 years of that, and then Jerry had me move up with the freshman boys and help with the reserve and with the varsity. And he was a great role model, a great friend. He was a great partner in education. Jerry taught me a lot, probably how to do things the right way, because as a young coach, as well as I do, we make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And some of them can be critical.
Yeah.
And Jerry was very good with teaching me the ropes. He would pull you in and say, hey, why don't you try this instead of that? But he also let me grow. He gave me the reins to put in some things at the varsity level when I was helping him. And we tried different. We did a lot of 1-3-1 press that I brought in from watching Van Meter at Greenfield. And he trusted me. And when I was looking around at several varsity jobs as a JV coach, I looked at Georgetown when Brian Grant was there. I looked at Bethel. I was looking at White Oak. Some of them Fayetteville had called. So Ripley had talked to them a little bit. And Jerry made one comment. He said, I'm not going to stay forever here. And he said, Eastern's a great community. They have great kids. And he said, they're always going to be competitive. They may never be the best, but even in a down year, you're going to be competitive.
Yeah. And that's what brings me to the next topic, because one thing about Eastern basketball is the level of toughness and grit that your teams play with. How do you instill that in your young men?
Well, we tell them we want to play as hard as anybody. We also have our core values. We talk about being a great teammate, giving relentless effort 100% all the time, having toughness. And that's something that we've developed over the time. And, the kids buy into it. And part of it is, again, as I said, you're talking about coaches that go back to Coach Kaiser, Mr. Gardner, John Burroughs. Our girls program, our boys program are somewhat similar.
Yeah. I said that in the when I was talking to Mike and Allison last week. I said the philosophy may be different. You and Pick may run different stuff. You and Pick may go about your day-to-day operation in terms of the way that you move differently. But the culture is exactly the same. And I'm going to get into more of that with Pick later on, because he was one that came through the boys program, and he was kind of in a similar situation that you were in, except for you were not anywhere remotely ready to leave, but he spent 12, 15 years with you as well. It seems how long was it?
He spent 20 with me.
Yeah, it was a long time.
I hate to see him leave because Kevin started out of high school just like I did. And we've worked and shared ideas, and even we spoke today. And one of the things he said, did you listen to Pat Kelsey the other night on that Zoom conference? I said, I did. He talked a lot about analytics and coaching, and he said, I wondered how it would fit in with us. And when you say our culture's the same, we run some of the same stuff. We may call it different names.
Right.
And he may see something that he likes that I'm running, or I see something that he's running in practice, and I think I might be able to use that.
Right.
And we share a lot even now that he's coaching girls.
Right.
That's one of the things, Jason, that's one of the things we talk about. You talk about our core values are very similar. You talk about grit. I think that comes from growth as a kid, playing a lot and not wanting to lose.
Mm-hmm. Competitive. Peyton Scott has got as much grit as anybody that I've seen in the last 15 or 20 years. And it's because she just flat out hates to lose, you know? And I think that part of our culture that's gotten lost is the part where kids like to win more than they hate to lose. And I am a sore loser. I hate to lose more than I love to win, you know? And so that may be a problem, but that's just me. It seems like even on your down years where the talent is not at its peak, you're still able to win 15 or 16 games. How are you able to remain relevant even when your talent pool may not be at its highest point?
We're still going to expect what we want out of our athletes. We want 100% effort. Maybe the talent's not there, but I will tell you, though, some of the best – I felt like I did some of my best coaching was with some of the teams that weren't as good, and those kids rose to the occasion. I remember the one year after the state tournament, I think we won 9 or 10 games, and we were down. We were young, sophomore starting at the point guard. We had some juniors back that were seniors that gave us a lot of base, Adam Boulder, Josh Carlisle. But those years, even with Cody's bunch, the young bunch we had, those years, those kids still have the same core values. They got the pride and the tradition of what they want to do with Eastern basketball, and they bought in.
Mm-hmm. You've coached several 1,000-point scorers throughout the years. Some of those were really great scorers. Chase Lawson, as good off the bounce as a kid that I've seen in a long time. He was a really good player off the bounce, and he developed a really good jump shot. Another one, Brett, was a really good scorer. But you've had some kids score 1,000 points for you that were not offensively gifted. Is it the system that allows kids to be able to do that?
Well, I will say, change one thing. They were offensively gifted. These kids that scored 1,000 points, they had some things they had worked at and developed. Everyone that scored could shoot it, and they found ways to score. What we tried to do with them, they gave up some things to score. They may have scored more than what they did, but we may not have been as successful as a team. They gave up some things to make our team more successful. Right. I have to say that part. You're talking about Kyle Stout, RJ, Brett. Yeah. And I'm looking at some of the Tyler Knapp, Chase Lawson, Nathan Scott. Those kids all would have scored more if somebody said, you go score, but I don't think our teams would have been as successful.
Well, and I'll speak firsthand on this. I coached Nathan for a summer or two in AAU, and the first summer that we got him, he was not offensively gifted, and he didn't score but 8 or 10, 12 points for a game for you the year before. But then when he came back the next summer, he'd average like 17 or something, and he was totally a different offensive player. Like, you could tell that he had worked on a lot of things. Like, he developed, his mid-range game was always okay, but he went a little deeper, and he was knocking down some threes, and he was getting more creative off the bounce, and he was finishing better at the rim. And so, like you say, he became a very gifted scorer. And he went to college and became a very gifted scorer.
Yeah, I watched him play a couple times, and he off the bounce, he was as good as anybody on a pull-up.
Yep.
Marietta wasn't him bad. Wilmington, you talk about Chase. We worked with Chase because he could shoot the three, could come off the screens. We worked on him attacking the basket more. But everyone, Tyler Knapp could shoot the threes very, very well, but he didn't attack the basket as well. By the time he's a senior, he was doing that.
He was getting to the rim, yeah.
So we took what they knew, and we tried to develop
expand on
their strength, and then expand their other parts of their game.
Yeah. I want you to walk us through that epic state championship run. It's very few and far between that teams from this area get there. Ripley has never had the opportunity to get there. I don't know that Manchester per se has ever got a chance to get there. I don't know that Peebles has ever had a chance to get there. North Adams got there back in '96. And, we won't get into that, but that was a bad deal that they caught there. But teams in the shack don't get the opportunity, or the SBAAC, to make that state tournament run very often. And you were fortunate enough to do it. Tell us about the year. Tell us about some of the kids that were able to make it happen, and give us the details of that experience and how important that was to your program and its growth.
Well, that's one of our goals every year. We hope that we have that opportunity to play well enough and get to Columbus. I told somebody, I said, it's still on my plate as a goal sometime to win a state championship. And it's the kids. They grow up thinking that. Sometimes they don't have enough belief, but that was in 2002. Mm-hmm. And I talked to my son a little bit about that, RJ, and he said, when we started the year, we had almost made it out in 99. We got to the regionals. In 2000, we got to the regionals. We were undefeated. We got beat that first game of the regionals, shot it poorly. The next year, we got beat by Belpre, RJ's junior year, and they went to the state tournament that year, and we had them down double digits with about 5 minutes to go and ended up getting beat because the one kid they had went off. Well, the next year, we came in, and I know we started out with a holiday tournament early in the year. Didn't play very, very well, and I was kind of disappointed. And one of my coaches, and one of the things I have to say about coaches, all our coaches have been with us. 80% of them are Eastern people.
Right.
The other 20% are neighboring coaches that have fallen in, and they have similar goals,
beliefs, values,
and beliefs that we have.
Right.
So I've accepted them and brought them in. But that year we started out and we ended up losing one game, and that was to White Oak. After we had beaten them at home, we went over there after a Friday night game at Fayetteville, went to White Oak, got beat. Was a little disappointed. We had one player that was possibly hurt and didn't play very well. And so we started out in the tournament, and when we got through that first game with Adina, we got a bye. We go to Waverly. We win by 18, didn't play extremely well. And that team in 2002 scored 70 points and gave up 55. So we like to do a lot of things. But one of the things that we did work on throughout that year, and I tell the kids now, we started working on the man-to-man run and jump and didn't use it till the last 1/3 of the season. Mm-hmm. We couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. But I think that was the one thing that made us better in the tournament, in the districts and regionals, because we could do that.
Right.
So then we came up against the Zane Trace team in the district. Well, some of our kids had been at the combo the year before, and I think that made a difference. Josh Carlisle was a junior that year. He had played as a little bit as a sophomore. Adam Bolander. Brett was a freshman. He had been with us some. RJ was a senior. We had Anthony Johns and Ward Chambers. And when we got there, some of those kids looked up there at that combo and saw all those empty seats. It holds about 10,000. And they were kind of mesmerized. We got through that game, won by 14. RJ had played there before, so it didn't bother him. I looked it up today. He had 35. Then we go to the regionals, and the whole team shot well, but we're playing that game in that first game of the regionals, and that's what they said. We had to get the monkey off the back for that game. And we were playing Wheelersburg. They had the player of the year, the Burleson boy, went on to play at Wright State, 6'6", 6'7", good shooter, strong. And we put our run and jump in, and we end up winning that game by 18-20. And I think that caught them off guard. Prior to that, we played Portsmouth, in the district finals. And they had a big kid named Thurman that went on to Thomas More. Mm-hmm. He was their leading rebounder over 4 years. Mm-hmm. So that was probably an upset because Portsmouth has been Division I, Division II, then they were Division III. They kind of stayed at that level. And as I said, then we got by Wheelersburg. Then we came up on Garraway. And Garraway had two really good players. Renner and Regula. Both of them went on to play NAI or Division II basketball. Then they had a sophomore guard, so they were pretty good. And they had come out of the area of Berlin Highland. And we had scouted them, and we knew they could play. And we were down 8 or 10, and our comment was, if we can just get close that last quarter, we'll make a run. And we ended up turning them over several times down the stretch. We hit some big shots. I think RJ had 38 that game. And one of the coaches I met about 8 to 10 years later had been sitting on that bench. We were sitting in the state tournament, made the comment. He said, you could see it in your kids' eyes. They weren't going to lose. He said, especially RJ. And I said, well, it takes kids like that to come out and fight. Now, the Chambers kid played well. I think Brett didn't score a point, but he took a big charge at the end of the game. Carlisle played extremely well. He's one of those kids at 6'3", wasn't a great big super player, but he averaged 9-10 points a game. He gave you everything he had. Adam Bowler, another farm kid that come in and worked hard. So when we accomplished that we got over that milestone that handicap that we were worried about in that regional semis, and then got to the finals, and they just kind of persevered.
Yeah. And this is something that I talked to Jerry Underwood about a couple weeks ago, and there's a lot of conversation about it locally. Ripley's always part of that conversation geographically, where Ripley's located, being right there on 52, Eastern Brown's above us and Manchester's below us, and we're right in the middle, and both are Southeast District. I talked to Jerry Underwood last week, or 2 weeks ago, through the Eyes of a Champion series, and he basically said that Georgetown left the SHL and went to the SBAAC because they were playing in the SHL and having successful seasons, but not getting good tournament seedings. Was that kind of the reason that you guys wanted to you wanted to stay in the SHL? So was that one of the reasons that you guys went Southeast District, was just based on the fact that geographically it didn't make sense to go to Cincinnati, nor were you getting any respect in terms of seeding?
Well, even with, we're talking, when you talk about the state run in 2002, we played teams all over, and we played Bishop Reedy at the state tournament. But prior to that, in 97, we win the league. We go down, we get beat in the sectional finals. 96, same deal. And you were talking about some of the teams. White Oak had a team that made the state tournament the same year we did in 2002 with Coach Himes. And Pat had coached at Marymount, and we played them in the tournament and did beat them. And one of the questions you're looking at, they asked us, and I went in and I said, if we're going to play in our tournaments in the Southwest, I asked the superintendent, asked the AD, can we play some of the city schools?
Right, out of conference.
Madeira, Marymount, Finneytown, go down and play them. And they told us it's too far.
Right.
And I said, and we discussed it. And I'll tell you what, I've had great administrative support. And the superintendent looked at me and said, if you want to pursue it, you do so. And he told Jerry, he said, what do you think? He said, well, Jerry had left and Lowell Ritchie was the AD. So we put this together and we looked at who is our borders? We played several teams that were all Southeast teams. You had Lynchburg, White Oak, Hillsboro, Manchester, North Adams, West Union, Peoples. Every one of them was Southeast teams, and we're playing them either in the league or non-conference. And I said, can we drop some of the non-conference games and go that way and play? And they said no, so I proposed, because we were playing so many Southeastern schools, and we bordered them. And our communities, our argument was, we're a rural community. We're not a suburban community. Our kids are of a different nature for that. Mm-hmm. And they were also looking for some D3 teams at that time. They're loaded now.
we got about 5 more minutes here. I got a few more questions, but the 96 year, when you guys got beat in the sectional final, we won the sectional and won the district and made it to the regional that year, and you guys beat us twice in the regular season. So you had a really good team that year with Kevin Lucas and Bill Hickson and one of the Houck boys and Seth Tracy was really good, and you had
we had some
Kenneth Bird. One of the things you're a very passionate coach, and during my playing days, your court presence was more evident on the sidelines than it is now. You were a little more demonstrative on the sidelines than you are now. You kind of relax a little bit, but does that come from being in coaching so long that now your players know your expectations, that it allows you to relax a little more?
Hey, you know what? It's kind of nice that you just say you're getting older and you don't maybe get as fired up. Wrong answer. I do get fired up.
You just learn to deal with it a little bit.
I think when you get older and you experience more things, you develop some wisdom. And I also found out a lot of kids didn't respond real well to that. Now, my kids did, and some of the others that we've had. But over time, values and ideas and ways of coaching, kids don't really change a lot. Society changes around them,
right,
and what our values are. So I don't know. I think maybe I've learned to work with them a little better, because I'm hoping that, and I found out this year, I react a little calmer about it with the kids and put a lot of trust in them. I expect them to do the right things. I expected them to be able to function. And another thing, that's what practice is for. We try to prepare enough in practice that we know what we're going to do in the game, and we got to trust ourselves. Whereas maybe in the past, I thought I could change a lot of things from the sideline. No, my kids had played enough that they changed it. They were able to do that.
Right.
And that's what coaching my sons helped me understand too.
That brings me to my next point. You have a great staff over there at Eastern. Those guys have been with you over there for many years, a long, long time. Coach Tim Boone, Coach John Boone, Coach Lynch, Scott Hundley. Now you brought on Mickey Hundley, and a long list of support staff. I know I'm leaving some people out, and the kids of your program end up working for you. They end up coming back and working for you. They work those camps and they work for you. How do you keep everyone so engaged? And you are a tireless worker. You always, we were then and you still are now. You're still one of the guys who believes a good in-person scout is the best way to prepare for an opponent. Do you use film much is the first part of the question. And the second part is, how do you keep your coaching staff so engaged to what's going on around them, because they know about everything that's going on in the league and in the district?
Well, when you talk about our coaching staff, I got Coach Lynch, I got Coach Hundley, Coach Boone, John Boone, Tim Boone. I got Mickey Hundley down at the junior high. Yeah. Mike Nab helps. We talked about 80% of the people. Even before them, I had all the Houck boys and their dad. I had Coach Cropper. He played for me. I had Pick. He played for me, and he also
coached with you.
Coached with me for 20 years. So
yeah.
Those guys have all come through the system. They know the system. They know the process. And then how do I get them engaged? Well, they care. They love the program as well as I do. And if they see me putting in hours, they're going to put in hours.
Right.
Now, and I keep looking. I told them, some of them today, I said, we're going to do some analytical stuff. I said, some of you can't be in the gym right now. And you talk about our kids. We get our kids involved by working camps, by working Pee-wee basketball, because they got to give back. They were there at one time, and they idolized the older kids. So when the older kids get the chance to pay back to those smaller kids that are going to help them grow, that's what we want out of our program.
Right. We
get 10 things together. Our coaches go to clinics together. We go scout together. Now, you were asking about scouting. Jason, 25, 35 years ago, Coach Lewis and me and my 2 boys or 3 boys would go scout, or Mr. Burroughs with us. He was in the boys program for a while, and then he went to the girls. But, we would go scout together because there wasn't a lot of trading films. Then when they got to trading films, we traded films. But we also went to scout. Today, I don't know. I feel that I like a live scout to see them if it's possible.
Right.
If I can't get one, and the team that beat us, I got to see them play 3 times live. I got to watch probably 7 tapes on them.
Right.
So, with Huddle, you've got more access from other coaches. There's more trading. One of the things that I did almost say, I think if it would be nice if coaches just say, you know what, let's trade the last 2 games you've had. And I think another emphasis is on family. All my coaches either have kids that have played for me or they played for me and their kids now are coming through the system. So we look at that, and I think family time is important. It's one of the core things we talk about in our belief. Education, family, we talk about faith. And I've been lucky to have one player that really helped us this year a lot there. And it created a brotherhood.
Right. 2 more questions real quick. Coach Picks joined us. When your coaching career is all said and done, you will humbly go down as one of the best coaches to do it in our area, as far as longevity, as far as winning percentage, as far as commitment, as far as what you brought, not just to Eastern basketball, but to the community. Because what a lot of people don't understand is you have raised the bar. At Felicity, when I talk to our kids about, when we played you guys, we had a really good first half or whatever that was, a really good third quarter. And, I told our kids, I said, the difference between us and them right now is, for us, this is a hobby. And for them, this is a lifestyle. And they do everything that you guys do. They play baseball, they play soccer, they work. But this is a lifestyle for them. And so when this is all said and done and you've left your mark, you will live through so many young men. And I just want you to know that you are appreciated by people outside of your basketball family at Eastern. The kids that play for you wear playing for you as a badge of honor, and they appreciate what you put them through. A coach is defined as someone who trains intensively and organizes a sports team. To me, a coach is a leader of men. Take about 10 seconds and tell me what the word coach means to you, Coach Buechler.
I think coach embellishes a lot of things for kids. I think if you're someone that's going to help be a role model for them, you're going to help them grow. We talk about things that I'm going to remember. It's the relationships, all the way back to my other sports. John Wise winning the state championship in track, Chad Sexton them running at the state meet and at the cross-country meets. Then basketball, that state team, but all the other teams that's been to the regional, even the teams that maybe didn't get to the tournaments. So a coach is someone that can help these kids grow and be good, successful adults. And I think that's in building relationships. When I look back and I see all the other coaches around the area that are successful in the same manner, it's those relationships that you build.
Right. Thanks for joining us tonight. Coach Buechler, Coach Pick is on with us. Coach Pick, how's your quarantine?
It's been tough on the basketball end of things, but quarantine life for me has been pretty normal. I mean, things at work and the everyday life hadn't changed much other than just a lot more family time.
I want to go back. As a high school player, you were a freshman or you were a senior when I was either in the 8th grade or a freshman. I don't remember exactly what grade, but I remember watching you play with Matt Day. Was that his name?
Yeah, Matt Day.
Matt Day.
A little bit older than me,
I remember.
Matt Dyer. You're probably thinking of Matt Dyer.
Matt Dyer. I remember watching that group play. You were always a high IQ guy. You always knew the game well, and it was pretty evident that if you chose to get in coaching someday, you would have that opportunity. How did your coaching opportunity come about, in terms of being able to help Coach Buechler?
Coach said there earlier that, I worked for Coach a lot of summers. We roofed together and put in the back of together and different things. So it just happened to be we just graduated, and I was helping him set the backer one day, and I asked him what the summer camps was, and he said, well, we're getting ready to go to Rye Grand and start that process, and he's going to be his first year head coach. And he said, I'm actually looking for a freshman coach, and would you want to go up and coach him till I can find someone to do it full time? And I said, sure, I'll go up and coach him. So it just kind of grew from there. I mean, it's something I fell in love with immediately and knew that's what I wanted to do. But to stop you right there, I want to thank you for the great comments you said to Coach here at the end. I mean, the respect he's got along not only in the Eastern community but outside of it's tremendous, and a guy that I think sometimes gets overlooked because of how hard he coaches and wants it for the kids. But he's truly a great asset and a great community member, and he wants the best for everybody.
I live inside his head, Pick. I'm always picking at his brain and calling or texting about something. I'm inside his head. He probably has nightmares about me asking him questions about stuff, but I just feel like there has to be a standard that when you're building a culture and building a program, there has to be a standard that you build it around. And for me, for as long as I can remember, because it's an issue of consistency. I don't care anything about the 2002 state tournament team. That's a big deal to you guys. That's not a big deal to me. What's a big deal to me is the young men that come from that program, like the Scott Croppers and the Jared Millers. And, the list is Jason Houks, and the list is long, long, long. I'm not going to go into the list, but I could name off 15 or 20 guys that are great young men because of what you guys were able to instill in them during that time. I talked to Micah Harvey and Allison Day last week, and one of the things we talked about, Coach Pick, was at Eastern High School in terms of basketball, although the boys and girls side may have different philosophies, the goal is the same. Where did that original bar of high success start, if you could go back?
Yeah, I mean, definitely Coach Kaiser set the bar for the girls' side. I mean, you can go back through all the boys' coaches, Coach Forsythe, Coach Pitzer, Gardner, Lewis, and Coach Buechler now. But Coach Kaiser for the girls set the bar really, really high. I mean, year in, year out, 17, 18, 20 wins. He's got 600 career wins, but he had great players. They bought into his system. He was a worker. He worked at it every night. Practice. I watched a lot of his practices while I was either waiting to catch a ride with one of them as a player back then to get a ride home, or just loafing around in the gym after work sometime or after college and watch his practices. And him and Coach Burrows had a great camaraderie, and the kids just bought into it, and they set the bar so high that not everybody can just walk into those situations. But Coach said a good thing earlier. Eastern's always got kids that can play or athletes, but our kids seem to want to work, and they bought into that both on the boys' side and girls' side.
Well, and I'm gonna go back, because a lot of coaches have camps, and a lot of coaches have Pee Wee programs. And everything starts with the youth. If you're getting a kid in the 9th or 10th grade and you're having to go over the defensive rotation in a 4-man show, and that's how you have to spend 25 or 30 minutes of practice, you're really behind the curve. You're behind the 8 ball. And that comes from spending 25 or 30 minutes on it to perfect it. That's one thing. Spending 25 or 30 minutes on it to teach it, that's an entire other thing. And when you get in those programs, you run into that a lot. And with your program, I know my Uncle Dean came up to a summer camp, and he was just infatuated with the way things worked, with the way things were set up, with the stations, how the clinic was before the game, and all that type of stuff. And he was infatuated with it. But, moving on, you are a very hard worker, not just in basketball, but in life. How are you able to get that to rub off on your players, especially today's generation of kids that just aren't as infatuated with the process, maybe as the generations pass? Like, something I've ran into with kids today is they want it now. We want to be good now. We want to beat the teams that are perennially good now. How do you get your kids to buy into the fact that it's a process?
That kind of starts from day one when I took over. I mean, I asked the kids if they know any previous teams or players that played on them teams that had success. But, if you did, who was it and how you want to become like them or better than them. And once I established that, I felt like, hey, I want to get so many freshmen on the varsity. I want to get a freshman in a varsity uniform every year. And then I just kind of want to be able to replace them as they say, a junior starting point guard and she's a freshman. Hey, when I become a junior, am I going to get to take her spot or somebody going? And it's just it's a process of where you get kids buying in and commitment to the success of the school and the program, not just for their individual goals, but it's a respect thing too. I feel like if they see me working, I do my end of things, they're going to try to follow along. And on top of that, I've had a daughter play the last 4 years, and she knew what I wanted and made life a lot easier for me. And she was a hard worker, and she wanted to do things I wanted correctly, and she wants the people around her to do it correctly. So I felt like she took a lot of burden off my back. So, it's going to be a little different from this point on, but I feel like I've got kids that'll still buy in and accept and keep going forward.
Right. We will go back. We talked about it before. I talked about it with Coach Buechler. I talked about it, you spoke on it earlier just when we got started, but you worked for Coach Buechler for 20 years. What was the determining factor to jump over to the girls' side for you?
Well, at times I still wonder why I made that decision, but not because of the kids or anything like that. Just I enjoyed my time working for the boys, and it's different being a head coach. And sometimes you wish you was just kind of the assistant guy, not the guy making all the calls. But my daughter had a lot to do with that. I was able to coach my boy at a younger age in baseball, and my daughter always claimed that I never coached her in anything, and that kind of convinced me to, it's given an opportunity. And like I said, I talked it over with my family and my kids and my wife, and then I talked to Coach Buechler about it, and he, it's a great opportunity to stay right here at home, yet just different side of the coin. So at the end of the day, I mean, that's still a tough decision, but I felt like I was prepared and ready. And fortunately, I've had a lot of success, but I've had a lot of great players and coaches around me. You've
done a really, really, really good job. You had very big shoes to fill in replacing Coach Burrows, who was the successor to Coach Kaiser. And those two men had a ton of success and had built the girls program basically from the ground up, which I thought it was from the ground up. But Kelly Benintendi told me when she was on last week that Eastern's girls program was creme de la creme in the 80s when she played. So Eastern's girls program had been good, but they were the ones who really started to make the push to do more than just win games, but to make tournament runs. How much pressure did you feel in accepting the job? Did you feel pressure when you accepted the job?
I did feel some pressure. You look to your right, and you've got Coach Kaiser and Coach Burrows down there on what I call coach's low or whatever down there, where you talked earlier about declare setting and stuff. But yeah, I absolutely feel pressure. I kind of always put back in my thoughts in my head, what would Coach Buechler do in this situation? What's Coach Kaiser thinking I should do in this situation? And what's Coach Burrows thinking I should do in this situation? And I played for 2 out of 3, and I talked to Coach Kaiser a lot. And, it was tough. It's still tough today. If I walk into the gym and coach a game today and I see them 2 or 3 or 4 guys down there